Hotep, Brother Beniti, Amun Ray. Excuse me, I'm clear my throat here. What we're going to kind of get into today a little clarification on deity, but more so, I'm going to get into an aspect of Seth, Satuk, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I'm going to get into the Typhonian aspect of them. I did something on Set, the Typhonian deity, but we're going to focus on darkness and chaos and what exactly that is, what exactly deity is, and how one is to perceive it and put it into their own personal perspective. Unfortunately, again, as I've said before, people that work this system, the ancient Egyptian origin of the left-hand path, tend to kind of get still get a little bit confused on how they approach it. One of the hardest stumbling blocks to get somebody over, and I can attest to this in many years doing this, is still to get them to realize that what's taking place is going on internally. Meaning not to look at these deities or concepts, again, existing outside of yourself. It's a hard thing for one to discipline themselves, because even people that are on this path now still have this problem, are still dealing with a multitude of issues in identifying with this concept. It's easier said than done. This is part of the process, as we explained, of being able to discipline yourself and separate yourself from everything that has an influence over you. Because again, unfortunately, a lot of people leave a lot of other philosophies, religions, dogmas, and they come into this, and they think they've separated themselves from that, but subconsciously the mind is still operating with that type of mentality, which makes it difficult to progress on this path, therefore creating the illusion that one is not getting the necessary results. So to understand archetypes, it's just kind of what the word describes as a type of energy. What the energy represents determines the type of archetype or deity you will work with. So it's very, very simple. If you are dealing with a certain aspect or a situation that's going on personally with you in your life, etc., you would access the archetype that represents that energy. Again, if you need healing, you would go to the deity for let's say for example Kansu, who represents a healing energy. When you get into the mysteries of ancient Egypt, and you deal with what they call Heka, which is another term for, or just a term that you'll see them use for what we call Egyptian magic, manipulation of the elements, manipulation of the subconscious mind, etc. One would access that force. That energy resides within you. So one would just focus on the latent healing powers, and they would put so much mental energy towards it, they would access the archetype, let's say, of Kansu. Okay. Any deities that reflect healing. If one was trying to bring balancement to the head, one can also access the Yoruba deity Obatala to keep the head sound, because Obatala represents bringing balancement to the brain, to the head. These also tie into your chakras, because each deity you'll see in each culture has a representation of each individual chakra. So one must know again, if they're working with a specific deity, or if they're working with a specific energy that deals with that level of consciousness, one can also focus on a particular chakra that is connected to that, to aid and assistance that, because the activation of that chakra will even, bring that energy into fruition even quicker. But darkness and chaos, okay, and just to be clear and go over some of this, because the reason why this path is called black magic, adept of the black arts, because again, people still tend to be a little bit confused with that, and it's more so newcomers, because they still got logged in their mind when they hear those terminologies that this is something quote unquote evil or negative, or it's demonic, which that could be a good thing, but that's a whole nother story. Because they still have not, again, cleared their subconscious mind of all the excess bullshit that they've been programmed with. So they still approach this shit as a religion. I bring this up because I still get a lot of emails and questions from some people. Even some people have done consultations for asking, particular things in reference to deities. Still along the lines of, and this is not anyone in particular, I'm speaking in general, still along the lines of how to approach deity. What deity should I do this for? What deity should this be used for? Now, it's good to ask, that's fine. But the key is, the funny thing is with most of the emails, most of the people already have the answers to their questions in the email. They're accessing the right energy. But I think, again, where the confusion comes in is, as long you can access any of those energies that are affiliated with the type of work you're doing, but the intent has to be clear. That's why I did that video a couple of weeks ago, to fuel your intent properly. As long as the intent is clear and there's not a bunch of stuff not making sense, because there are some that work spiritual magic and they're all over the place. They're trying to do a multitude of things simultaneously. Not that you can't do more than one particular thing at once, but there has to be a focal point. There has to be something fueling that intent. And sometimes when too many things are being done at once and you're all over the place, nothing gets done, and that could be a problem. So this is kind of where I'm seeing some people get a bit stuck. Now, why the darkness and the chaos is so important, when you start to really focusing in on mentally and meditating on that darkness and that chaos, it's going to alleviate everything on the surface. Trust me when I tell you that. All the bullshit on the surface that's creating all these illusions in your mind, all these things that you think have been so important to you for so many years, all these systems you've been practicing, shit you've been reading and studying for years, or since you were a kid, that you thought were correct. By going into that darkness and chaos, it's going to address that shit. And see, this can't be bypassed as being unimportant. This is why we relate a lot to the representation of what the deity set represents. Okay. Now, religion got it all fucked up, because the problem is this fictitious character they call the devil, okay, is really just a counter-reactive, or something to counter-react the concept of the deity they call God, the creator, in their Bible. It's just a representation of a nonconformist, somebody that didn't want to go with the norm, somebody, that wanted to step out on his own and think for themselves. That biblical character, who they call Lucifer, Iblis, they give him all these different names. When you read your biblical stories, then of course added with all the religious hocus pocus and all the negative shit that you get in there, is really the true representation of this deity that we call Set. And this is why a lot of people in theology will correlate the connection between the character, the devil, and who they call the deity Set in ancient Egypt. They're very similar, but yet very different. And that's very important to understand, because somebody on the left-hand path, real left-hand path seeker, and more so the left-hand path in the origin or the aspect of ancient Egypt, we don't believe in a fictitious character called a devil. That biblical devil is about as real as that biblical God. It's about as real as Santa Claus. So people get fucked up with this. This is not, this spiritual system has nothing to do with that shit. And unfortunately, when you still run into people, when you talk to them about this, they're still under the illusion of this. They can't separate the two. So somebody that's on this spiritual path doesn't look at, let's say, the title, the Prince of Darkness, which is a powerful title. The Prince of Darkness on this path is Set. That's who is the Prince of Darkness, because in that darkness, all things manifest and emerge from that darkness and that chaos. And this is why he's also affiliated with chaos, because that chaos and darkness is much needed, has to be first before anything else can exist. So when one taps into that energy, one is going to be refined and emerge as a deity, because they're going to go through trial and tribulation. They're man, they're gonna deal with everything that they've been trying to avoid for years. Shit they've been running from, consciously and subconsciously, because you could say to yourself, I ain't running from nothing. Yeah, on the surface you think that shit. But when you start tapping into these energies and you start really connecting with this path, you're going to find out there's been a lot of shit you've been avoiding, whether you've been aware of it or not. See, the thing is, a lot of this shit we've been running from is shit that we're not conscious of. But let's get into some aspects of this darkness and chaos with Set. Okay. Let's I'm going to skip through here. Seth, or Set, is the god of confusion. Okay, and I'm taking this out of Second of Pep, which is a good book, which we've done radio shows on. It's referenced that Seth is a griffin, a guardian, and a destructive spirit, specifically a beast of destiny, thus finding a relation to the form of higher intellect of the individual. This is one of the key components of why one must work with this Setian energy, or this Set mindset. It's the higher intellect of the individual. Now, we use a word when describing certain things, and as I said before, we incorporate that word Set. To explain this intellect, one must have, to be successful in certain areas, one must have the mindset of that area. Okay? Then it goes on to say, the majesty of the will of Set is probably the most compelling of all the Egyptian gods, as he is both beneficial and malefic. For instance, Set protects the boat of Ra against the Pep, of which represents his primal and chaos embodied Niter, or hidden self. In turn, he embodies the powers of darkness and war. And when you read the Egyptian stories, that was the only deity that was able to defeat a Pep, because they're connected, they're intertwined. Now, Ra wasn't able to, his father. He spent his whole life, as you read these stories, warding off a Pep, as it says every night. But he was never successful in defeating a Pep. Okay? Because Ra, which represents the light or the fire element, okay, before it can exist, okay, it also emerged out of the darkness. So that is symbolic in itself, because as Ra's trying to ward off a Pep, it's symbolic of you, the individual, warding off being engulfed in the darkness, connecting to and addressing all your inner fears, addressing everything about yourself, good and bad. So it's not just the bad, but tapping into the higher intellect of the individual. It's all symbolic. So Ra represents that aspect in this scenario, in this story. You, the individual, who does the same thing on a daily basis, you run from the darkness and the chaos. You fear it. You fear it for a multitude of reasons, because it's unknown. Not sure of what's going to happen. What's going to happen if I rethink or reprogram my subconscious mind, or reteach myself of everything that I've been taught. Because somewhere in your mind is saying, this shit is wrong. I've been following certain systems for years, they're wrong. But there's also another aspect of your mind that prevents you from acting on it out of fear. So this is what this is about. This is what this story represents. And that's why Set, as it says here, he embodies the powers of darkness and war. And he was the one that was able to ward off and fight and destroy Pep. Seth called the Typhonian concept, or typhoon, by the Greeks, caused an eclipse, caused the eyes of Horus to be blind long enough to tear them from his head. Set then assumed the form of a black pig and swallowed the left to gain the power of Horus. This is the best symbolized as at night when the sun is not visible and the moon is bright. Set then, like the primal form of Pep, consumed slowly the moon each month. Pay attention to this, there's a lot of symbolicism here. Typhon in Greek mythology was the giant son of the earth, Ge, and was a great adversarial storm demon whose name means smoking. His form was terrifying and was described as having numerous heads, hands, and wings, and his legs terminated into huge coils of snakes. He roared with the the rhyonic and demonic howls of lions, boars, serpents, and more. The aspect of Seth Typhoon as a Typhoonian Natir, or true will, is the Sethian aspect of will to power. The power of the storm and the darkness is but a mirror of the mastery of self. An interesting aspect of modern Luciferianism and ancient Egyptian myth is the mention of the 8 fiends of Set. 7 is the number of specific demons representing unconscious powers. The 8th is the power of compelling and hanging together the other. Thus, Algol of the 8-pointed chaos star represents the adversary embodying the black adept. That's that symbol you see right back there with Set. You actually, right there, you see a Pep in the middle of it. I know it's kind of small, you probably can't see it. And you see that 8-pointed star. Here it is with a pentagram in this picture. It doesn't have the chaos serpent symbol in the center, and that's one of the key reasons I keep that as a focal point when working with these black powers of dark energies. And you see Set right in the middle there, the statue of the deity Set. You see Sekhmet on his right, Anubu on the left, also known as the triad of darkness. Because when you work with that type of energy, it's going to unlock everything that's in your subconscious mind, okay? This is why that star represents everything that embodies a black adept. That's what the shit is all about. That's the reality symbolically of what it represents. That's what this path is. And granted, like I say, I get emails from people, and I want to stress this shit. I'm not even going to sugarcoat the shit for you, okay? Bottom line is this. Somebody that's on this path, and this includes myself, I'm not interested in your personal opinions and your likes and your dislikes. People sometimes just don't get it. That's some personal shit you got to deal with on your own. This is not a path where an individual who is on this path is concerned with what everybody thinks, in the sense that it's going to deter them from what they're doing. Because bottom line is this: the results we get may not be a reality to everybody, but we don't feel the need to have to prove that, because we already confirm it by the results we get on a daily basis. That's all that matters. So because that individual may not be experiencing that reality, it comes off as not lining up with their ideologies. Then they get pissed off and then they want to send you emails about dumb shit. And as I've said before, I'm not interested in getting in back and forth dialogues over stupid shit that you are wrestling with and to appease your ego. Shit is irrelevant. So this is what people don't get. This is not a path where you're concerned with people's likes and dislikes. That's some personal shit they got to deal with. Okay? And because they may not like something or may not agree with something, that doesn't mean it's not effective. Just like I may not like or agree with something that you do, but it may be effective for you. But I'm not gonna sit there and badger you and try to get you to see shit my way. If I just don't like it, I just don't fuck with it. I leave it alone, and that's it. And I leave it there. See, that's the thing. People can't leave the shit there. They feel the need to compound it with their bullshit, their egotistical opinion. See, the difference is somebody that's on this path has disciplined themselves away from that shit, not to respond to that. That's called, in a sense, keeping your ego in check. Now, it doesn't mean be a soft punk bitch and take shit from people. That's not what I mean. Because by all means, as I've said before in the past, occasionally when somebody gets stupid, you gotta pull out a can and whoop ass on them. And sometimes people get their feelings hurt. And sometimes people, what they fail to understand, when somebody that embodies this energy, and I can attest to this for myself, there's no in between. So sometimes you get that raw, aggressive energy, and sometimes that's not appropriate to come out on all levels, only when necessary. So this is also another aspect of this path is disciplining yourself, and that becomes a tough thing on all levels. And man, that's a topic in itself that can be talked about for hours. Being able to discipline yourself, and a lot of people are not able to do that. And discipline is not about forcefully forcing yourself not to do something, because as we've talked about last couple of weeks in last class, resistance leads to more persistence, because that urge becomes stronger. So discipline is not forcefully against your will trying to make you avoid something or not do something. You just got to know how to work with certain things, certain energies and situations, and know when to apply them. That's discipline. Know when to tap into them. Know when it's not a right time to tap into them. But everything has its purpose and serves a purpose and a reason. It's up to you, the adept, to figure out what that is and when and how and why. And that's going to vary depending on what you got going on. So the discipline aspect becomes tough because when one is able to tap into this energy, sometimes they can get engulfed on a multitude of levels. They can get consumed, and we all get there. And it's okay, because that'll happen sometimes, but as long as you're able to recognize it and make the adjustment, that's called a learning lesson. The thing is, you never want to become consumed by it, because then you can lose control, and that could just be with anything in life in general. So there's responsibility with this path. Okay, so when we say chaos, right, there's one aspect. We say darkness, we say chaos. You must have chaos and darkness for anything to manifest itself, because it all comes out of darkness and chaos. But remember, what came out of that chaos was order. So there has to be some discipline there. But the person that creates the discipline is you, because everybody will have to go into their own personal chaos and make sense out of this shit. Okay? That's the reality. This is what set represents. These are what these symbols represent. And symbols, sigils, whatever you want to call it, on this path is critical and important, because it's such a strong representation to the psyche of the subconscious mind. So that's key in understanding that shit. Knowing how to reflect with those symbols. So that symbol mentioned back there, and again, the reason why that's a focal point of per se one of my altars, is as I'm looking at that symbol, that's the consciousness it's projecting to my subconscious mind. As I'm meditating, as I'm focusing, as I'm concentrating, that's what that symbol, that's the energy that's projected from that symbol. These are key things that one must understand in working these paths, because symbology is key on this path. Most definitely key. All right, let's get into a little more I want to finish this section. All right, skip down here. To define Nita in Egyptian terms, we will look to the pre-Greek understanding of the word. In Egyptian lore, the word Nita represents a god or evolved power, essentially when there are principal elements to a type of power or intelligence. There is the Nita or god. Nitiru represents several gods. The Nita has the opposite qualities of the dead, thus Nita itself has living qualities. In the text of Pepi I from the Book of the Dead, there are references to the hawk being a symbol of the Nitir. And in the in the 53rd dynasty and onward, there are several uses of Niter as becoming aware of the self in a living perspective, powerful in identity. I have risen up from the form of a hawk, Nitiri. I have become Nitir. I have become a spirit. I have become strong. I have become a soul. You hear about the hawk-faced Lord. We'll talk a little bit about that. In reference to Kefir, the self-created one, the Nita is mentioned as being self-produced as well. In Luciferian magic, we call this the demon. The ritual of the invocation of Set Pakrabeth is the rite of seeking the establishment, the awareness of one's Nitir, which in turn empowers all the elements of the Ba, the Ka, the Sekhem, and establishes, that's the soul, spirit, and life force, the Ba, Ka, and Sekhem, and establishes a form of conscious-willed order in life. All order, structure, consistency, and the normal means of creating and maintaining a good life. There's your answer to this path. What's the purpose of this path? Of maintaining and creating a good life. Not some fucking spooky ass spirit outside of yourself. Not some old man God sitting in the sky like a fucking puppet and controlling the courses and of every individual's life. That's not who's creating it. When you submit to that idiocy, you have now engulfed yourself in mental slavery. You are now controlled by the forces of unseen. You understand? You're now controlled by something that doesn't even exist, and you become a slave to it. Because you're the one that's given a reality to that fictitious concept. Because just as quick as you believe it and accept it, that there's some fictitious old man God in the sky that's controlling everything you do, just as quick as you accept that, it eliminates and goes away just as quick as you choose to reject that. It's that simple. It's not really that fucking complex. It's sometimes people are looking for deep, heavy-ass answers to regular fucking questions. I won't say that shit again. Just as quick for so many years, many people who've been submerged in religion and under mental slavery, just as quick as they accepted it and gave it life and wholeheartedly believed in it and put all their energy and their power and their might in it, just as quick as they're able to say, man, this shit is bullshit, it's not fucking real, that's how quick it disappears too. Confirming the one that was giving life to it from the start, whether you accepted it or rejected it, was you anyway. Okay? This is what this is talking about here. Okay? Okay? This is talking about an individual, okay, who's able to create structure, consistency, and the normal means of creating and maintaining a good life. You are that creator. There's nobody outside of you doing this shit. Okay? In the form is formed from the darkness of chaos, which is destined to return after a period. Now, what that means is that chaos is always going to return in cycles. This is just common sense. There's periods in your life where things are going good, and then some bullshit happens. Okay? So the chaos will always rear its face. But the difference is, when you're on this path, now you're able to recognize it and embrace it. Whereas individuals that can't embrace the shit, they get consumed by it. They become stressed the fuck out. They flip out. They go crazy. They can't deal with the stress and the pressure. Somebody on this path, once they've submerged themselves in the chaos and mastered it, anytime that chaos approaches, and believe me, it will fucking approach, okay? One is able now to deal with it more diligently, is what this is talking about, okay? I'm going to skip down here. Set, the god of confusion. There is reference to the significance of Set in the solar bark and being raw in a violent aspect and compelling a pep. The cobra Uraeus on the forehead of Ra, encircling the solar circle, is Sekhmet, a motivator, power, and when aligned with Set, represents strength and overmastering challenges. That's why I said I keep that connection on the altar. So Sekhmet and Set together represent mastering. Okay? Okay? Not just regular mastering, as is used the term here, overmastering challenges. So when you're connected to that archetype energy, there's nothing, nobody can fuck with you. Period. I don't give a fuck what it is. When you embody that energy, you're able to overcome any obstacle. You can get through anything, anybody. Okay? Now, that may not be a reality to some people watching this video because they don't have the experience in it, and that's okay. And you shouldn't accept that as a fact until you have that experience. So by all means, this is why we encourage you, live the experience. Don't read about the shit. See, everybody wants to fuck with all the pretty shit. You know, shit that makes them feel comfortable. You know, the peaceful stuff of Egypt. They act as if there's no aggressive, dark, raw, chaotic, magical aspect of Egypt. They act like that shit don't exist. Everybody focuses on, you know, the mother goddess, Isis and Osiris and all the pretty shit. You understand? We going back way before all that shit. We taking it way back. And we taking it back to the point, to the pre-dynastic Egyptians, where these sciences, these teachings were put into practice. Okay? Like I said, most people read the Coming Forth by Day and they have no fucking idea what they're reading. No fucking idea. A lot of people look at that as unfortunately, as some religious text. They look at it as a Christian with a Bible and a Muslim with a Quran. They don't realize it's a book of invocations and spells. It's basically a magical manual how to invoke different archetype energies. There's so much symbolicism and symbols in there. When one's really able to absorb it, one can apply how that reflects and works with the subconscious mind. But most people have no fucking clue what they're reading. Okay? All right. Set in the solar bark is essential Ra, the most violent and warlike under the sun. It is not unheard of that Seth had a combination or empowered other Netis such as Horus Ra and later Amun Ra in the temple of Set in Ombos. Set sits opposite to Amun in the temple, holding equal power. So wait a minute. In the temple in Ombos, Set sits side by side with Amun Ra and holds equal power. Now, I know there's all of these Egyptian, you know, conscious coons love to venerate Ra. I even hear motherfuckers call, you know, make reference to Ra as the Most High because they're still fucking religious. But here we got an important fact that Set was held in the temple of Ammos, the temple of Ra. Set was held in equal power and sit side by side with Ra. Remember, it says, recorded in these texts, that Set was the greatest of deities in ancient Egypt because of what it represented. It engulfs all of these deities and the archetypes that they represent. You heard earlier when I read about it, sucking the eye of Horus and plucking the eye out and consuming it to consume the power of Heru or Horus, which is now, again, another symbolic science of vampire magic or vampirism, which is absorbing the energy of the gods. And this is why in vampire magic, Set is one of the most powerful deities, because that's what Set is about. He's about absorbing, consuming, and assimilating the energy of these archetypes in his DNA and making one, for lack of a better word, one super archetype, because a black adept embodies all of those archetype energies. And it's what I meant earlier in the earlier portion of this video, when one needs to identify who, what, when, and where to work with these energies. How, when to access them, when not, when to leave the shit alone, when to fuck with it. That's what I meant when I said that. So when one takes on a set mindset, one says, I am all of those energies. I am all of these deities. And all of them are me. And I am the master. And I've tapped into the higher aspect of my intellect. And now I've mastered the ability to tap into those energies when need be, at will. Whereas I'm not controlled by them no more. I don't worship them no more. I don't become a slave to them no more. I'm not consumed and controlled by them no more. Because I now know what it truly represents. That's what this is talking about. All right? In the New Kingdom, we're going to finish with this last section here. In the New Kingdom, Set appears in conjunction with Amun, with Set being the overriding form. In the 19th and 20th dynasty, a Set appears with horns of Amun bearing the crowns of the north and the south. And I told you, Set always represents, or his representation, or his area of where he manifests his energy is from the north. Okay, because in the north, there's Masonic now, there's darkness. And anybody that's gone through a Masonic lodge, they'll tell you no work is done in the northeast quadrant, in the north over there, because that represents a state of darkness. And even those motherfuckers in the lodge don't even know what that north really represents. So they just leave this shit alone. But that's where the most power comes from symbolically. That's where that darkness comes from, manifests itself. Right? Then it finishes up here. We're going to finish with this last section. The 20th dynasty pharaoh, Setnek, was written after establishing an order in Egypt by various revolts, like Khepri Seth when he rages, as having, through his will, commanding order for a time. Seth in this aspect holds the keys to darkness and chaos, yet through his will may establish order. Through his will, just like you through your will can establish order to anything in your life. Ain't no spooky fucking God going to be able to do it for you. Ain't no Jesus going to be able to do it for you. Ain't no Jehovah, Yahweh, Allah going to magically be able to fix your bullshit. You got to fix it yourself. That's what this is about. Ain't nobody doing this shit for you. Okay? Then it goes on to say, the association would be with Seth Amun, from which is a mastering element of the sun. Seth also manifests as Anti, as a god of foreign lands. This god Anti appears as a falcon god. Remember I was talking about the hawk-faced lord. Like Horus or the earlier Sakir, yet also Set. There's a stellar from the Middle Kingdom showing Anti as the Lord of the East, who has a Seth head. For the black adept, seeking to eliminate the self, a type of mastery over your life, is essential in early aspects of initiation. Sethian is the power of darkness, yet when unified with other gods, represents the compelling or strength of the definition of those gods. That's what I was just talking about. A black adept is able to embody the element and energy of all these gods. So I won't say that part again. Okay. In the early stages of initiation on this path, one must, okay, as it is essential to have mastery over your life. Sethian is the power of darkness, yet when unified with other gods, represents the compelling or strength of the definitions of those gods. With Set Apep, there is the primordial hunger of darkness, which seeks continued existence, the mastery over the lusts of the subconscious and flesh. Man, let me say that last part again, because that's some important ass shit. Set Apep, which is another aspect of Set, and I told you Set and Apep were connected. What does that really represent? Continual existence, the mastery over the lusts of the subconscious and flesh. That's what this shit is all about, okay? Can't put it in any other words. This is what embodying the aspects or the energy of a black adept is. This is what the shit is, okay? I hope this clears up some questions. Again, sometimes I'll try to do a video on emails, and I'll kind of try to address simultaneous, what this is about. So I just hope this is able to bring some clarification on a lot of shit, because, this is what this path is about. Path to self-mastery. This is what we mean when we say self-deification, and people get confused with that term, because they still look at it as a deity, as some fucking spook god sitting in the sky in some place called heaven. See, when you look at it in that light, shit ain't gonna make no goddamn sense to you. Okay? because that's not a reality. Anyway, having said that, we're going to stop there. Again, appreciate everybody turning out this past weekend. We had a great spiritual gathering last Friday night at our Igun ceremony. So for all those that came out, it was truly a great experience for all that showed up. We will be doing another one next month. We got a great response to it, so we definitely going to do another one next month, and we're going to step up our intensity with it. And then those that turned out to the class last Saturday, as we had Brother Ravana Noon, who was on the show that we do, Awakening Universal Minds, the show that the brothers we do together, showed up, came out Saturday night and taught the class with me, and we had a good turnout there. It was a good class. So much love, respect to everybody that showed up for that event. We definitely will plan one again soon in the future. And for all those that have called for consultations, I definitely appreciate that. I also appreciate your patience as I get you lined up and set up. As you know, I go in order. And as I've said before, if you do want a consultation, try to at least call a couple of days before you actually want it. It's tough to call to get one that same day or the next day. So always plan when you call. It'll probably be a couple of days out from when you call. Now, if you are interested in a consultation, again, I try to address this on video every week because I get a lot of emails. How does it work? How is it done? How much does it cost? Well, let me address that again, and I'll do it every video now to save time. It basically, if you can't get to me in person, obviously if you are unable, it can be done in person. If not, it can be done either on the phone, it can be done via Skype, Google Hangouts, FaceTime, Emo app. It can be done any of those methods. It lasts up until an hour, and I do charge $55 to do it. And it can be paid for via through PayPal or Square, which is a credit card over the phone, and it's paid the day of, before the consultation, or the day of. You don't have to pay for it until the day of the consultation, but it must be paid before the consultation takes place. And any area can be focused on. It could be specific areas you want. It could be altars, questions, concerns. You got stuff going on in your life. Spirits can be pulled down that you work with that are connected to you. We can identify specific spirits or archetype deities that you might be in need of working with, ancestral relatives, all whatever kind of comes through, and that's how we work with it. But you can also dictate. Some people just like to just ask. They have a list of questions, so that can be incorporated too. So it can be done on any of those levels. So that's how it works. If you are interested in that, just to save you the time, because people will email, how do I go about getting a consultation? How much is it? How does it work? So again, it can be done in person. It can be done via Skype, FaceTime, Emo app. It can be done Google Hangouts. It can be done straight just over the phone. It can be paid via PayPal or Square, which is credit card by phone. Must be paid the day of the consultation before. It is $55 and it lasts up to 1 hour. So if you are interested in that, you can definitely contact me at khnum19@gmail.com. Again, that's khnum19@gmail.com, just like the deity Khnum. khnum19@gmail.com, and we could set that up. Also, don't forget Thursday nights, or Wednesday and Thursday nights. We have 2 shows now. Wednesday nights we're on Blog Talk Radio with Brother Sharif. It's the Rise of the Gods and the Goddesses show. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thor Radio Network. That's on Blog Talk. All you gotta do is go to Blog Talk, type in Thor Radio Network, Thor Radio Ministries. It comes right up. And we're on that on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. And then Thursdays on our show on TalkShoe.com. Awakening Universal Minds. That's every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TalkShoe.com. All those links are right here on the YouTube channel and the Mother Nubia Inc. Google Plus channel. You can find all that information. It's constantly posted. So look out for that and tune in for that. And that's something we do weekly on a regular basis. I think that's pretty much what I got for you. We covered the radio shows. But this Thursday on our show, we will be having Brother Sharif on, bringing him back for the third time, talking about spirituality and economics. Meaning it's not okay to be fucking broke and be on this path. And do not equate being broke with spirituality. The two and two don't go hand in hand. So we're gonna bring Brother Sharif back in, and we're gonna build on that this upcoming Thursday. All right, that's what I got for you for this week. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.